Horror over knife attack at Guangzhou train station. Locally, chaos as Occupy Central scrutinizes political reform packages. And new victim in South Korean ferry tragedy.
Good evening. 6 people were injured in a knife attack at the Guangzhou railway station today. Authorities say 4 assailants were responsible. 2 of them have now been arrested. Mainland authorities have not yet confirmed whether this was a terrorist attack. Jenny Lam reports.
The attack at Guangzhou railway station happened at around 11:30 a.m. Witnesses recalled the chaos. This person saw 4 people dressed in Uyghur clothing stab a number of people, some in the back and one on the arm. A woman bled profusely, then fell to the ground. A police officer who arrived at the scene fired at the suspects, hitting one of them and subduing him. This person says the suspect was covered in blood. According to Guangzhou police, 4 knife-wielding men attacked people at random as they were coming out of the station. The assailants are said to have ignored police warnings. Officers then opened fire. This was the latest in a series of knife attacks at railway stations on the mainland in recent months. Just last week, 3 people died and 79 were injured at a railway station in Urumqi, and 29 were killed and 143 injured in a similar attack at a station in Kunming in March. Many of the previous cases have been linked to Uyghur separatists. Jenny Lam, TVB News.
Here in Hong Kong, clashes erupted today as anti-Occupy Central protesters rallied at the pro-democracy movement's Deliberation Day. Participants of the meetings are choosing their preferred electoral reform proposal. The result of the vote will be announced later tonight. Evelyn Leung has more.
It's a clear sign of the difficulty in trying to find a consensus on how the city would achieve universal suffrage. Scuffles broke out in North Point between opponents of the Occupy Central movement and those taking part in today's Deliberation Day. Police intervened as emotions ran high, mostly from the opponents, who are concerned about the damage the proposed civil disobedience campaign may bring to Hong Kong. But the Occupy Central participants focused on why they want to continue with the meeting.
We want to tell the Hong Kong government and also the Beijing government that we want to have public participation.
We understand there is still room to discuss based on the basic law.
The Deliberation Day was held at 5 venues around town today. Participants discussed the pros and cons of 15 electoral reform proposals that meet the requirements set by a panel of legal scholars to ensure the public would have a genuine choice of chief executive candidates to vote for. Of the 15, 1 of them was put forward by pro-establishment scholar, and 6 of them offer elements of civil nomination. About 2,500 members of the public who signed a declaration of support for the movement are being asked to vote for the preferred proposal. The 3 with the highest number of votes will be put to a citywide referendum.
And they will have the chance to indicate their preference on the 22nd June next month. And then we can come up with one proposal. No matter whether that proposal includes civil nomination or not, that will be the proposal that Occupy Central will fight for.
And Tai said Occupy Central will decide after the government puts forward its official proposal on whether to hold a separate referendum on the public's acceptance of it.
It will be the responsibility of the SAR government to convince us their proposal of the government can still satisfy the international standard, can still guarantee genuine choices for voters in an election.
Benny Tai said he is more than satisfied with today's turnout. He pointed out that this shows many people still care about political reform in Hong Kong. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
The world's first human case of H5N6 avian flu has been reported in Sichuan province. The patient has now died. The world's first victim of the H5N6 strain of the avian flu virus was a 49-year-old man in the city of Nanchong in Sichuan province. Local authorities said he had come into contact with dead poultry before he fell ill. The man was thought to have died of acute severe pneumonia initially, but later tested positive for the H5N6 strain. So far, none of those who came into close contact with the victim has shown any symptoms. More than 1,300 birds that tested positive for the H5N6 strain in Sichuan have since been culled. Disease control authorities in Taiwan said the low pathogenic H5N6 strain has been found in the US, Germany and Sweden since 1984, but that there had not been any human case until now. Dr. Ho Pat Leung from the Department of Microbiology at the University of Hong Kong says what's important now is to establish whether the virus has mutated in such a way so that it can be transmitted from poultry to humans.
If this is an infection involving the H5N6 alone in an otherwise healthy young adult, and it resulted in severe pneumonia and death, that would mean something more significant.
Experts believe the death in Sichuan was a one-off case because the risk of the strain spreading remains low.
Turning overseas now, South Korean officials say a civilian diver involved in the search for bodies at the site of the sunken ferry has died while on duty. He's the first fatality among divers mobilized following the ferry's sinking. The 53-year-old was pulled to the surface by fellow divers after losing communication 5 minutes into his underwater search. Despite the death, authorities are continuing their search. Last month's sinking of the Sewol left more than 260 people dead, with about 40 others missing. Many of the victims were students on a school trip.
Thailand's caretaker Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra defended herself against abuse of power allegations in a Bangkok court today. It's just one of several legal challenges that could see her removed from office. Today, she denied abusing her authority in 2011 when she transferred her National Security Council chief to another position. Critics say that was to benefit her party and violated the constitution. The courts and independent state agencies are widely seen as biased against the Shinawatra political machine. Yingluck supporters accuse the courts of trying to topple her through an unfair use of the legal system after 6 months of protest failed to unseat her.
European foreign ministers are meeting in Austria to discuss the situation in Ukraine, where authorities are trying to oust pro-Russian rebels from their positions in the east. The country's interior ministry says up to 30 separatists and 4 Ukrainian soldiers were killed in the latest round of fighting. As Russia's foreign minister arrived in Austria for Council of Europe talks about the crisis in eastern Ukraine, the charred remains of cars and trucks near Slavyansk were another reminder of the ongoing violence there. Today, Ukraine's interior ministry said more pro-Russian rebels were killed as government forces attempt to maintain Kiev's control of the region. Ukraine's government says the rebels are equipped with mortars, heavy machine guns and other large-caliber weapons. Much of the recent fighting has taken place in and around Slavyansk, but other cities in the east have also witnessed their share of violence. In Donetsk, some 120 kilometers south of Slavyansk, flights from the local airport were suspended today. And Ukraine has sent an elite National Guard unit to its southern port of Odessa, as fighting there intensified between government troops and rebel forces. The loss of Odessa would be a big blow to the interim government in Kiev, leaving the country cut off from the Black Sea. Ukraine already lost a significant part of its coastline in March when the Crimean Peninsula was annexed by Russia. This has become the country's worst crisis in decades, with different groups fighting over its future direction, while outside powers such as Russia and the West complicate things further by pulling Ukraine one way or another. On paper, the pro-Russian insurgency is fighting for broader powers of autonomy in eastern Ukraine. But some insurgents do favor a complete break or union with Russia. Leaders of the anti-government movement plan to hold a referendum on autonomy for the eastern regions on Sunday, although visible preparations for the vote have been virtually negligible.
And still ahead in our news tonight. Police arrest 2 over 3-year-old girl's kidnapping. A colourful parade on Cheung Chau. And Mark Selby shoots down the rocket to win the World Championship.
Cruise! please dissuade your man of the notion that he is invincible.
Lieutenant, you gotta...
This is not a conversation.
It's not right for me to bring my sins into this house. Can I have a minute?
Now's not a good time, Mouch.
Yes, it is.
Wednesday, Chicago Fire at 10:40 on Pearl. It's a mystery box challenge that requires brains, balls, and lots of creativity.
Oh, ew.
It's not chocolate.
There's this massive tongue.
What I'm making, or what I'm trying to make, is fried testicles.
Thursday and Friday, MasterChef at 8:30 on Pearl. The outstanding achievements and contributions of distinguished marketers deserves to be recognized. Since 2005, HKMA TVB Awards for Marketing Excellence has been presenting individual awards to honor distinguished marketers and bestow prestige and recognition upon them. The time has come for you to acknowledge the marketing elite in your company.
The HKMA TVB Awards
for Marketing Excellence
is open for entry now. Give us your support.
HKMA TVB Awards for Marketing Excellence 2014 is open for nomination now. They've got the brains.
It's investigating possible antiviral strategies.
And they've got the looks. Yet all that matters is how far you can go. Saturday, Hotties vs. Nerds Wipeout at 8:30 on Pearl.
And welcome back. Well, tens of thousands of people flocked to Cheungchao today to celebrate the annual Bun Festival. A little drizzle today hasn't spoiled the fun, and our Joao da Silva is standing by at Cheungchao to tell us more. So, Joao, it seems like quite a lot of fun out there.
Good evening. Indeed, the rain did not spoil the fun. According to the latest ferry operator figures, 25,000 people travelled from Central here to Cheungchao between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's still 16% less than last year, but more than enough to pack the streets for that which was the highlight of the day, the parade. Let's have a look at all the riveting fun early in the day.
The Dragons woke up early on Cheungchao today. It's that one day of the year when this normally sleepy island is packed with visitors to celebrate the Bun Festival. This couple is from Australia.
A parade. I heard that the little children get dressed up in pretty costumes. Get carried along. Yeah, and we want to look at the bun towers.
These people thought the peace buns are well worth waiting in line for an hour. Customers are spoiled for choice. This woman couldn't decide between lotus bean or sesame paste filling. The peace logo is on every merchandise imaginable. The vendors just hope the weather wouldn't ruin this once-a-year business opportunity.
Despite the rain, huge crowds of revelers are here in Cheungchao Island celebrating this wonderful mixture of religious tradition, food, music and political satire that makes this festival one of Hong Kong's main tourist attractions. And this is the highlight for the day, the parade. The so-called floating children, some of them making a mockery of government officials. This one is supposed to be Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam. The highlight of the night, though, is the scaling of the Bun Tower at the stroke of midnight. 12 men and women will vie for the coveted titles of King and Queen of the Bun in the bun scrambling competition. The Cheungchao Bun Festival has its roots in the island's tradition of warding off the plague and bad luck. The people of Cheungchao have been marking the event by praying for peace in the 4th month of the lunar calendar. For those of you still planning to come here, there will be an extra ferry sailing back to Central at 1:15 a.m. Otherwise, you can catch all the action live here on TVB at the stroke of midnight. That's all for now. Back to you in the studio.
OK, thanks very much, Joao. And that was Joao da Silva reporting live from Cheungchao. Well, let's move on to other local news. And police have rescued a 3-year-old girl from her alleged kidnappers in Qingyi. Officers arrested 2 people in connection with the case. One of the suspects is a former employee of a company run by the girl's family. Rachel Leung reports.
This 40-year-old man was taken to Kowloon West Police Headquarters at around 2 a.m. Officers said he worked at a renovation firm in Mong Kok until a couple of months ago. Police said he arrived at the company at around 3 p.m. yesterday and took away the 3-year-old daughter of his former boss. Choi Chung-ho, acting superintendent of Kowloon West Regional Crime Unit, said about an hour after the girl was taken, her mother received a text message demanding